We are live.
Beautiful.
Welcome to Celtic. We made it. Welcome to the Celtic Down Under Thursday Sesh. I am your host this week, Willie, and I am joined by Dan. How's things with you, Dan?
Fantastic, mate. Had a beautiful day, as I was telling you before we come in. Just spent the day with my kids and my parents, so it was nice to just get out. And I've got a couple of young kids, so it was nice just to let them have a bit of a party and have a bit of a play at the playground. And now's the recovery. They're just going to bed, so it's sort of wind down, recover, and talk a bit of Celtic.
Yeah, it's always good to talk Celtic, isn't it? So we'll go over. Well, tonight we're going to go through a few things. We'll have a quick recap of the St Mirren game. We'll have a look at sort of transfer going on. We'll have a wee look at what's happening with the Champions League, who we would like, who we wouldn't like, who we'd like to avoid. And then we'll do a wee bit of a dive into the big match against Rangers. So I'll pass it over to you for the St Mirren game. Is there anything you want to add that's not already been said across the socials?
Yeah, look, I don't think too much. I wouldn't say I was surprised that we weren't challenged less, given, going into the game, I think we expected more from St Mirren than we'd seen from Killy or Hibs over the league and cup game in that sort of back-to-back fixture. But they looked tired. I know they've got a couple of injuries. They look tired coming off the back of European football, and more than expected, more than usual. They just sort of looked to me to want to dive in, grind it out, just try and be as big and imposing and physical as possible, and get a result for themselves. So it's it was nice to get that early goal again, and it's becoming a bit of a theme. Get the early goal, take the lead, and I think that's exactly what we need to do in games when you're going to face the low blocks and the packed midfields and the back fives and back eights or whatever someone wants to throw at us as the season progresses. So another good early goal, a cracking goal from the skipper again. He looks like a man with weight off his shoulders following the retirement announcement from international football. He just looks free and happy and composed, and not that he ever didn't look composed and on the job, but he just looks, as I said, like a man with the weight off his shoulders. Great goal from Hatate, and always nice to see AJ pile in with a goal as well. So solid, good win. St Mirren will be better for the run out. They'll prove harder, I think, as the season goes on. They'll be a better side than their start, but good win. We move on.
For me, definitely, it was a very good win in very difficult conditions. So,
we'll just have to, as you can see, Jared is not here, the boss, the gaffer, the main man. He's, I think, in Fiji, and Gerard messaged us about an hour ago to say he was too busy playing with himself at home to make the podcast today. So I'll just talk shit until Willie's back on deck. There you go. Oh, and I've sworn inside the first 5 minutes. We're demonetised again.
Oh no, demonetised. I never even got the intro music on or nothing. This is going to be one of the shortest lived presenting careers in podcasting history. This
is amateur hour between the two of us.
Amateur hour, yeah. Substitute teachers, that's it. You know what I mean? So, to kick back, sorry, I had an unexpected visit from one of my daughters there. I had to quickly deal with that. St Mirren, they just didn't really want to play football at all. They just wanted to try and bully us off the ball. Players like Gogic and Iakoviti and that, they're not footballers. They're just hammer throwers. I mean, if I ever cancel my subscription to Starlink, I think Elon Musk would send someone like Gogic round to my house to ask me, do I want to rethink about making the payments again? But
he's got standover man written all over him, doesn't he?
Yeah, he does, doesn't he? And he was taken off at half time. He got his booking early and he was taken off because he was running red. And they kind of pushed the boy Killian Phillips into the middle then. He was there, sort of, I think. But when I started watching him, I noticed he kind of runs with his arms out like that. I was like, is this guy going to be making aeroplane noises as he's running around the football pitch or what? It was just weird to watch.
Very unnatural. And I think For those who watch the Sky feed, Chris Sutton said it best when they were talking about Gogic's performance in midfield, and he said he just needs to be the guy who looks to minimise his touches and get the ball to someone who can play. And I thought, absolutely. Put him at the back where he can break things up. Fine. That's, teams need that occasionally. But in the midfield where you're looking for the guy to put his foot on the ball or pivot and make those passes or to open opportunities, it was bad. They looked really bad. And he was probably, the main symptom of that. He was, I've already sworn, so I'll say it, he was fucking horrendous. So.
Yeah. Well, we're past the 5-minute mark now. It's all right.
We're good. Sorry, Jared.
Yeah. We need to phone that hotel and just get a bottle of champagne sent up to the room, just to make our apologies and that, How did you think Adam Ida got on from the start? How do you think he fared? Do you think there's a lot of criticism about his shot shyness, but for me, I thought he played reasonably well positionally. He just, that final touch when it came to it, deserted him, but it will come.
Yeah, you could see. For me, I think you could see he made some good runs. He got himself open. The stuff that required the football brain was fine, and we know there's a football player there, so that's sort of stuff that's not going to go away. He probably looked a touch off the pace, and hasn't had the preseason or anything with the side. And I know he sort of had some preseason with Norwich, but obviously he looks a little off the pace. Game one, I'm not concerned at all. We know part of the reason we're quite happy with the price and with everything was that we knew what we're getting with Adamita, and it's a lot better than that performance. I'm not too concerned. We've seen him. He's not goal shy. We've seen him pull the trigger in the big moments. We've seen him slot some very, very big goals. So, I think he tried a little hard potentially. He looked like a guy that really wanted to perform well and wanted to sort of hit the ground running. But no, I'm not concerned at all. I think we've got a great player there, and we'll back him to the hilt.
Yeah, I'm the same as you. I think it'll come. Just a couple more weeks under his belt. He gets a taste for goal. When the first one comes, as soon as the floodgates will open for him. So, so we'll move on to the transfer dealings. So far, outgoings, we've seen O'Reilly leave for around, 26 million? For about 2 or 3 million. Haksabanovic for another 2 million. Lawwell for 3 million. Johnson, 2.5 to 3 million. Kobayashi, 1 million. Seaghurst is gone. Kwan's gone. Lagerbielke is gone, and Hart's retired. So we're looking at the best part of 40 million coming in there from sales alone. With the incomings, Ida, about 9 million. Bernardo, 4. Sinisalo for 1.2. Schmeichel on a free. And Valle on loan. So a total of 12 million. So that's 28 million. We're sitting there with profits so far this season. Do you think we're going to start reinvesting a little bit of that money, or do you think it's going to be touch and go until the window closes tomorrow?
I worry. Just based purely on, there's enough speculation that you have to think they're working behind the scenes to get some moves done. Engels seems like the obvious one. It does sort of look like that Matthias Bogisch deal has possibly stalled. I don't know whether we thought we might be able to get him on the cheap and LAFC have dug the heels in or not, but it seems like we've gone a little cold there. I'm not a penny pincher. I don't know if he's the player you want and the deal can be made. To me, I think you just make it. But we also know Celtic, we know the board. Based on the start of the season, we have started very comfortably. We've looked really good. Obviously, this week will be the biggest test of the season so far. Overall, Vale, there's obviously a play there, and coming from Barcelona, it's easy to just sort of assume there's a great amount of potential there. But I think we're not signing a guy on loan from Barcelona to play back up to Greg Taylor if he's good enough. So if he's good enough, he'll get the opportunity. We've spoken about left-sided centre-back. Austin Trusty seems to be the guy at the moment. I know he has partnered CCV for the United States, so you'd have to assume potentially CCV said, well, look, he's, I'm happy to play. I'd love to play with him, Gaffer, or whatever, but I don't know. Sheffield United's a hard one because they were just so bad that their season in the Premier League. I don't think you could pin it on him and say, look, he's terrible. He was part of an awful side. That said, if he's the guy that they've identified, it looks to be in the region of 5 or 6 million. I think that's a bargain for a starting centre back if that's where we're at overall. I did see just in the last hour on Twitter that Matt O'Reilly does need surgery after that horror tackle that somehow didn't get a card. So I'll just throw that out there while I've noticed it.
Yeah.
But look, I agree with Andrew as well. I like the look of Quan. I liked him at St Mirren last year. They're clearly missing him along with Kieran Backus in that midfield. I'm quite happy for him to hopefully get game time at Hibs and see what player we've got at the end of next season. But, from here, I think that if we weren't to bring anyone in the next couple of days, I think we'd all be a little disappointed.
Yeah, if nobody comes in, there's going to be major alarm bells ringing. But I've put down a list of 3 or 4 likely targets we're going to go for. And you've touched on a few of them. Austin Trusty's one of them. I've gone down as a left centre back, 5 to 6 million mark. He likes to defend from the front and will suit highline defensive play, which was right up our street. You know what I mean? His passing can be a little bit suspect compared to his peers, but it's not bad given. He's reasonable in the air. And I think, as you touched on, he's had a nightmare season with Sheffield United. A move to Scotland could be the break he needs, you know what I mean? Just to get that confidence level back up to where it needs to be. So I would say there's a 60% chance of that sort of move happening. And it is the left centre-back. You watch Liam Scales. Liam Scales is a great defender, but as soon as the ball goes over his head, he just gets so disorientated. It's painful to watch. And his passing is, well, if Austin Trustees is a little bit suspect compared to Spears, but isn't too bad overall, then you can put Liam Scales in the same sort of category. So, yeah, it might just be a slight improvement on Liam Scales. It might not be. But at 5 to 6 million, it's not a great loss of money that you're going to lose. So CCV gives it its seal of approval, then who are we to complain?
Well, that's it. You have to think, at the very least, someone at the club has spoken to Cameron and said, hey, what do you reckon? Surely. Yeah. I mean, I'm not sure we've got any sort of recruitment or scouting system in place at the moment, but hopefully someone at least has had the ability to sit down and think that. I like Engels. I said today on Twitter, if they're reporting that Augsburg want up to £13 million, I'd pay it. I think the potential's there. We're talking about a guy, look, not a lot of us are going to sit here and say, oh, look, we're experts in Arne Engels. I've watched what I can. We all know Twitter and YouTube clips can be very misleading, and they can highlight the positives or the negatives depending on who puts it together. I like the look of him. Good, solid physical presence. Played 30-something games in the Bundesliga last year. Like, he's not a zero unknown quantity. We've obviously had eyes on him. We like him. If he's the guy that Brendan wants, for me, if you're going over there saying, look, we'll give you 10, and they say 13, well, you're like, all right, split the difference. 11.5, 12, 13, whatever it is, let's get it done. Get him in. I'm not sure he's a direct replacement for Matt O'Reilly. I'm really not sure he is a replacement for Matt O'Reilly at all. So I'm interested how that would change our midfield. He would fit in to that sort of 4-3-3 formation for me, but I could see him potentially in a deeper role. So whether he pushes back and Calmac goes forward alongside Hatate or Bernardo, there's options there, and there's, I guess, room to move, but he can go forward as well. I think, and he's 20 as well, don't get me wrong, but passing accuracy was about the only minor criticism I really had. His overall passing accuracy is like just under 70%. So it's like, well, you want to improve that, but I have to think that some Bundesliga teams are potentially making it a little bit more difficult than some SPFL teams would be.
Yeah, I mean, their manager came out on TV and says he fully expects him to be in the squad at the weekend. So I'm not so sure this one might go ahead. I mean, 30 million, I think 10 million is probably the most our board will push out to it. So I can't really see them going to the 13. But he is a good player. He's an all-round number 8. He's probably that sort of box-to-box style midfielder. He's not afraid to get stuck in the defensive duties. He's just solid all-rounder, and the stats are pretty good when they come up. Right, so if we look at the comments, sorry, when you go.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I think you said box to box there, and I think that's right. And I think while that's not a direct O'Reilly replacement, and it's possibly not something that's a desperate requirement in the league week to week, that's probably the sort of player that would be more beneficial in Europe. So I think if that's where we're looking to progress, I think that's where he really could have an impact. But we'll wait and see.
Yeah, I mean, McLaughlin P here says, if we do get Engels, will that mean the midfield trio of Engels, McGregor, and Hatate with Kalmak pushed up? It's quite possible, but it's quite possible they'll leave Kalmak sitting deep and play the Engels in that number 8 role just in front of them, with Hatate pushed up towards the number 10 then. It's quite possible. Yeah, it'd be interesting to see this one. I mean, we've got, 24 hours left to the window. The Bogus deal, as you say, Bogus looks as dead as a Todd Cantwell loyal fan club, so I can't see that one happening. The other one that seems to have resurfaced at the moment is Sanchez from Lausanne. Is it Switzerland? No, not Switzerland. Is it? Aye.
I haven't seen this one at all.
4 or 5 million. He's an attacking midfielder. So I think he might have been the backup to Bogus. So it is one that I think that might just start snowballing from here now that the Bogus deal is dead. So
yeah, look, it'd certainly be on the Celtic board to lowball, even as the window looks to slam shut. You did sort of mention Engels could move forward, and while he has played in that more defensive role at Augsburg, I think Augsburg are in a very different position in the Bundesliga to what where we're at in Scotland. We're going to be looking to create more opportunities, use the flanks, push forward. We've got fullbacks inverting. Augsburg are, from what I saw in terms of looking at Engels' tape, they're a lot more defensively compact. They're looking to, scrape a draw against Bayern Munich. They're not looking to press home an advantage against St Mirren and Paisley. So we might see something different from him and the opportunity to play him a little further forward. So I'm not, I certainly don't think we can pigeonhole him as that defensive pivot entirely, or say it definitely means Kalmak moves forward. I think we've got some opportunities there, but Jerry, hopefully right there.
Yeah, that's it. Like, I mean, you got to remember these players, the likes of Austin Trusty and Engels at Augsburg, they're playing a more compact style of football where they're trying not to give away too much possession. Whereas now they're going to allow their creative freedom to flow when they play at a team like Celtic. They're going to get time on the ball. They're going to get into forward areas. You know what I mean? As I said, Austin Trusty likes to defend from the front foot. So that means he's not frightened to step out of centre defence, move into midfield and defend from there. Whereas at Sheffield United, when you're playing against the best strikers in the world, you're going to get absolutely crucified if you mistime that in any way, shape or form. Whereas in Scotland, you might get away with that. And your confidence grows. And you get, when confidence grows, your play becomes better. So hopefully some of these deals will go ahead and we will get this. Like Brendan is another prime example of coaching players to make them better. So, and if you get that sort of time on the ball that you will in Scotland, then we might see the best of these players.
I think that's a great
in the future.
I think that's a great point, mate, and something that I sort of have brought up a couple of times when we talk about, are we weaker than we were last season? And it's like, well, yeah, we just brought in Bernardo, we just brought in Ida, and they're players that we had last year. So sum total. But when we look at it, we had a big bloated squad last year. We've gotten rid of a bunch of players that, frankly, we're fine without. But it's not a number. It's not just a simple one in, one out. He was here last year. So, we've got players that are clearly improving. The side looks good under Rodgers. and we've spoken at length about Rogers' ability to improve players. So, I don't think it's as simple as saying, well, he was here last year, so we know his level. There are players in that side that are better this year than they were last year. So I think we've got to back in the ability of the manager to improve those players. And when we're looking at the players that come in, Engels, Bogusz, Trusty, whoever, what will be the impact of them playing in a side that's A, potentially more dominant and more in possession than what they're used to, and B, working under Brendan Rodgers, who, as we said, has that style of ball control, good, solid pressing, aggressive pressing, good use of wide areas. What will we see from that when they come in and play under Rodgers, as opposed to this is what he's done in Germany, or this is what he did during a horror season in the Premier League? Transpose that onto Scotland. So I think it's a deeper conversation than what some people often have. It's easy to get carried away this time of year. You look at the stats, you look at the names, and you go, right, I know what this guy's about, I know what that guy's about. But there are those other factors as well.
Yeah. I mean, you look at the Valle signing, he's the sort of fullback who likes he'll stick to the touchline and try and get high up the pitch as often as he can. He's not one for inverting like Greg Taylor is. So you can sort of see us stretching teams horizontally in that way, because Alistair Johnson's very similar. He'll get to the byline and try and get crosses over. And when you get two fullbacks that push that high up, that allows more space, and they draw defenders out, and that allows more space for attacking midfielders to attack the centre of the box. So you overload it in a completely different way to what you would have done under Ange, whereas the fullbacks would invert and you would try and create an overload in the centre. You're just trying to stretch these teams horizontally. And yeah, it's all about that sort of style of football. You know what I mean? Caressing the ball and looking after it and making sure that when you do press, you press with purpose and not just press for the sake of pressing. That is something that Brendan Rodgers will coach into these players and hopefully develop them. So,
100%. And I think you also got to look at, it's something that we spoke about in some detail when we talked about the deal to bring in Adam Eder as an entirely different option up front to Kyogo, in terms of very different players, very different skill sets, very different strengths and weaknesses. Valle, as you said, more of a touchline hugger, potentially there to put the crosses in, opens up play, uses that wide space, whereas Greg Taylor looks infinitely more comfortable inverting and coming inside, just infinitely more comfortable playing that inverted role. So if we're starting with Taylor or we're starting with Valle and it's not working, we change it up. We have the opportunity to play very differently within the squad. And I think that is also, something that's quite important, that we've got a plan B, we've got a plan C, we can change things up.
Yeah. On the Engels thing, our resident stats guru Mahesh, he's not a big fan. I still can't see why Engels, if he's any good, would want to come to Celtic. He would have his eyes on further at the German league. And he said earlier on that his stats aren't all that great. So one man's trash is another man's treasure, as they say. You know what I mean? Not everyone's going to see things in the same light. So, yeah, there's certainly, we've got, I think, when does the window close? Tomorrow at midnight? Is it tomorrow or Saturday?
Yeah,
I'm not sure.
It's Friday night in Scotland, isn't it? It's Friday night in Scotland.
Yeah. So we've got about 24 hours, 36 hours left of this window to try and get these deals done. And we do need them. Like, there's no ifs, buts, or maybes. Right now, we're sitting at the exact same level we were when we exited last season. So for me, well, with Matt O'Reilly going, we're probably slightly weaker in the middle of the park. So we definitely need these improvements. So, yep, the next 36 hours is going to be something well worth watching. Like, we'll be refreshing our phones at work all day tomorrow to see if Fabrizio Romano gives it the here we go, it's on.
It's it's going to be an interesting one. It's we're hoping for a flurry of action. I think we're all anticipating a flurry of action. It could quite easily be a damp squib, or a damp squid, as old mate from was it Follow or Hand on Heart or whatever it is, called it a damp squid.
Damp squid.
Aren't
Aren't all squids damp? No.
I was going to say if you've got a dry squid, you've got some problems. But and that's not a euphemism or anything. That's just a statement of fact. I have to think work is being done as we speak to get players in, but whether they come to fruition or we have one of those, well, it's a hard time to do business conversations after, then we'll wait and see.
How confident are you we're going to get business done then?
Can I hedge my bets and say 50-50?
50-50. I'm kind of in that camp as well, but there are some of us that aren't so confident. Craigie White says fail to fair, fair to fail, same movie, same shit. And then you've got RL77 says Nicholson might be toast after this shambles. Well, if he doesn't get the players over the line, then you would definitely sort of think that way. So
I think if you look at Nicholson's job metrics, he's made a huge profit. There's probably people at the club that are quite happy with his key performance indicators at this point. So possibly not. I know there'll be a few fans unhappy, but we'll wait and see.
Yeah, as McLaughlin P says, are they actually waiting for the Champions League draw to see if it's worth the hassle? So that's a nice little segue for us to move on to the next section, which is going to be about the Champions League. So tomorrow at 5 a.m., is it 4 a.m. here, 5 p.m. Celtic Park time, 4 a.m. for me in New Zealand. I'm not sure what that is for you guys in Australia, but the Champions League draw takes place. Looking at the pots and how they will draw, it's going to be 4 pots, and then what happens, from what I can gather, is that the top seeds will all get drawn out, and then they will get their games. They will get, like, Liverpool will come out of pot 1, and then they will be drawn 2 opponents from pot 2, 2 opponents from pot 3, 2 opponents from pot 4. Work their way through pot 1, and then it'll go into pot 2, and then they'll pick 2 teams from pot 3 to play them because they'll already know who they've played in pot 1. So by the time we come out of the hat as a pot 3 team, we'll already know which pot 1 and pot 2 teams we're going to be playing. It sounds like a very, very overcomplicated system, but I think it's one of that ones, as you watch it as you're going, you'll see it sort of start to make sense. So looking at the pots, what would you say would be a good draw for us? What would you say would be... we'll go with a good draw first and open it to the comments as well. If you want to let us know who you would like us to play or who you would like us to avoid, just throw it in there and we'll see if we can get them up on screen.
I'll bring it up. I put my dream draw. Now it's 4 home and 4 away. My 4 home games, I'll do them by pots. My pot 1 guys, I thought, you know what? Let's go big. Let's enjoy it. Let's get some good away trips. Let's get some good teams coming to Celtic Park. I know with coefficients and that, it's going to be harder and harder to get to this point moving forward. So my 2 pot 1 teams were Real Madrid and Bayern Munich. Just straight to the top. Enjoy it. Get the 2 big boys in. Second set down, I went Juventus and Arsenal. I went Madrid away, Bayern home, Arsenal away, Juventus home, Lille and Sporting out of our pot, and the final pot, Girona, because I want to see Bojan Miovski again, and Aston Villa, because I think that would be an interesting game. And I went away with that because I thought Villa Park, it's a nice little away trip, good opportunity, get down there and batter an English team, it'd be nice. And John McGinn,
Yeah, the John McGinn derby, like you'll get Hugh Keevans on Super Scoreboard saying you could have signed him.
I remember when
all that. So for me, I had I put a good draw. Well, the draw I would like to see, I would like a trip away to Dortmund. I think to get out there would be just that in that stadium. You know what I mean? That atmosphere would be great for the fans. Inter at home for obvious reasons, the 67 factor, and then you go into pot 2. I had Bruges at home. I fancy our chances in that game. And Shakhtar away because, well, I think we could maybe... We've played Shakhtar not last season, but the season before, and we probably should have beaten them home and away. Mudryk was the difference of the 2 teams. And then I've gone for pot 3 teams. Out of our pot, I've gone for Sporting Lisbon away, just for a wee green and white derby match there. And Red Star Belgrade at home. I think we could take Red Star at home. I think they're one of these teams that don't travel too well. And at the fourth pot, so I've gone for Sturm Graz away and Villa at home. Like you, a wee EPL, a Scotland-England derby game, an EPL team coming up. They don't like it coming to Celtic Park, so hopefully we give them a wee touch up and sort them out. Like,
yeah, I think that'd be good. I mean, you look at it, there are, I mean, pot one, obviously the best of the best, but in every other pot there are teams where you would think we have an opportunity. As you said,
yeah.
Bruges, Donetsk, you have to think, even, you know, I'm not going to sit here and tell you I'm watching a lot of Belgian or Ukrainian football, but on paper, we're, you know, in for a game there, whereas, you know, Feyenoord, we beat them last year, Zagreb, Salzburg, Red Star, Young Boys. Pot 3, pot 4, there are eminently beatable teams there, and there'd be teams there where you think, particularly at Celtic Park, we could get a result. So I mean, as RL77 says there, the weakest teams in every pot, no interest in the so-called glamour ties. I get that.
Yeah.
Max out the points, coefficient, laugh at the other lot. But also, you know, still one of the best nights I've ever had watching Celtic was doing, you know, Barcelona at Celtic Park. So memories are made in those big ties as well. But whether we're, you know, whether we've got a Tony Watt coming through is another story.
I was at that game. I took my wife to that game. She's never been to a football match in her life. And I just, at the end of the game, I had to turn around and say, there's no point in you ever going to another football match as long as you live. You're never going to beat that for an atmosphere.
So, yeah.
You know what I mean?
She can wrap it up. Yeah, she's done.
Yeah. So as you say, I was looking at like what would be a bad draw for us. Like going to Real Madrid away, I wouldn't fancy that again. PSG at home, I think PSG, they gave us a right good hiding the last time we played them. I don't think I would fancy that. Leverkusen, I don't know. I think they're a really, really good team. I wouldn't fancy playing them. Arsenal's another one. I wouldn't fancy going to the Emirates to play them. But then you go down to like the pot we're in, like pot 3 and pot 4. Like, I don't fear these teams. You know what I mean? I would look at them and say, right, these are the sort of teams you would fancy your chances for a draw. Where you would, if you were in the old style format, where you would be the bottom seeds, you'd be looking at these teams going, well, these are the teams we need to get points off, and these are the teams we go for. Right? And I look at these pots, like PSV might be a dangerous team to play, and Villa in pot 4, but all the other teams that are in there, the Bratislavas of the world, and that, I would really, I don't know, I think I would fancy my chances against them. I think if we get the signings that, as we discussed, the Arne Engels and someone like Trusty, and maybe even the Sanchez or Bogish, and you know what I mean, you'd have a stronger squad going in there and a bit of depth and quality there. I would fancy my chances against certainly the pot 4 teams, like Villa aside. I think Villa might cause troubles for some of the bigger teams they come up against. But yeah, I wouldn't fear too many. Like
100%. And look, this might be the apocryphal chat before the slaughter, and you know, we copped 6 off Sparta or something. But it's you're 100% right. There's not a lot of teams in those bottom 2 pots where you're like, right, that's a really tough game. There are some difficult games there, but there are eminently winnable games. Monaco's, the Monacos, the Stuttgarts, they're big clubs. They've been around, you know, they're well known. They've been around for a long time in terms of, you know, playing the Champions League and all that. But if you're going away to Monaco, for example, is it a write-off? Like, you tell me we're going to the Bernabeu, it's like, all right, well, have fun, lads. I hope it's a good trip. I'm not expecting anything. Whereas, you know, if you told me we're off to Monaco, I'm thinking, well, we could possibly get something out of that.
Yeah. There's definitely points to it. I mean, you play 4 home, 4 away. So if we can get our home form sorted out, like, okay, we might take a hit off the top teams, the pot 2 teams, but that's 6 points at home you would look at. And if you could get 1 win away or a couple of draws away, you're looking at 8 or 9 points. And I think that 8 or 9 points would be enough to see you into the playoff round. It's certainly pushing for a place in the playoff and not sitting there looking at the wooden spoon and thinking, oh, this is another embarrassment. But I'm looking at this draw now and I'm sort of thinking to myself, this is something we could be we could be pushing for this playoff spots, and I think it is an achievable target. What do you think?
100%. I don't see, even with all the criticisms and the concerns that we've spoken about over the last few weeks and the desire to see the squad upgraded, I don't think that it's unrealistic to think that we could be in that sort of 12th to 24th position where you're sort of, what is it, it's the top 8 go through and then it's the next 12 that are that go into the playoffs. So if we're in that sort of playoff section, I don't think that's terrible. And that's, if you're playing 8 games, if you were looking at, as you said, whether it's, 8 to 10 points, there's no chance that, a win at Celtic Park against whoever we get out of the bottom pot and potentially a draw away against anyone in our pot or above, you're knocking on the door, and you get a result against one of the big boys, then your job's half done. And I don't think there's any reason we can't do it. I'm not going to sit here and throw cash on it. I'm quite conservative when it comes to spending my own money, but I'm quietly optimistic. I like so much. We look so much more comfortable on the field with the ball at the moment. Even and I know we're talking about league football at home, but even compared to this time last year, where it just didn't feel comfortable. It didn't feel like we were strolling it. Whereas at the moment, we look imperious domestically, and I think that has to, that confidence and that the belief that grows out of that has to count for something as well. Could all be undone, if you cop an absolute hiding off Madrid or something early on, that could all be undone. But I think there's a little bit more resilience to the squad than that.
Yeah. So McLaughlin P says 8 to 9 points would be your red line. Some may qualify with 9 points, but some may not. Yeah, that's the case. Martin O'Neill's team got 9 points and didn't qualify. Andrew Galea, he says there's more games for us to be competitive, and that is a great point. We've always been the bottom seed team, and we've always had to play teams that are slightly above us on a level. We're now going to be playing teams that are on the same level as us, so there is points there to be won. So Pegleg Lonergan sort of sums it up perfectly when he says, "I'm looking forward to the draw, but dreading it at the same time." Yeah, there is a degree of that as well.
I think the big difference for me as well in terms of the change of format is that, say we get Madrid, for example, and we'll just use them as the boogeyman because they just seem to win the Champions League every year. If we were to get them and, play them at Celtic Park and nab a draw or whatever, frustrate them and get a late winner, we then don't have to go to the Bernabeu and play a return fixture.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So we're going to be playing 8 different teams. They're fresh. They're not going to have the experience from playing us. And I mean, it goes the same way as well. We're not going to learn from, or we're not going to have the experience from who we play. But I think that works in our favour as well when you're looking at, all right, well, could we pull off a staunch win at home and, get away with something or away and then, not have to face, a fired up Madrid that comes to Celtic Park after getting embarrassed or something like that. So I think that works in our favour as well.
Yeah, there was always a back-to-back game you played. Like you could always go against, if you're the pot 4 team, you could play the pot 3 team, play them at home, play a good game, get the points, and then go away and then lose the points. And then you could also be the bottom seed team and play the top seed team, play them away from home, get an absolute hiding, and then come back to your own stadium and take another hiding of them. And before you know it, your European campaign's just derailed. So it's going to be interesting to see how this sort of develops as a tournament, because I think Simon Donnelly said it on Super Scoreboard today that the Champions League's gotten a little bit stale and it's just become a little bit repetitive. So for me, I'm interested to see how this new format works. I think it's probably a step forward. It's a move in the right direction to move away from that sort of just the top 8, playing the top 8 when it comes to the quarterfinals into the semis into the final. You know which teams is going to be there. You might get every other year you get the odd team that will make the quarterfinals onto the semis, but it very seldom happens. So yeah, it's going to be interesting to see, and one we'll sort of look forward to.
No, you're right. And I agree with Simon Donnelly. I was nodding my head when he said it at the time. I think there's, not just more games, but more games that are going to be competitive. There are going to be more games against teams at and around our level. So, bring it on. And it runs longer. So we're going to have European football after Christmas. So,
yeah. So speaking of big matches, they don't come much bigger than the old Glasgow derby, which is rolling around this weekend. For me, we're going into this game with a really rich vein of form, and I can't see anything other than a Celtic win. What are your thoughts on this one, Dan?
I think we absolutely gub them, to be honest. Which I'm a pessimist at heart, so I'm like, the more confident I am, the more anxious I become. I'm like, am I setting myself up for the big fall here or what? And I know I just talked about nicking points off Real Madrid, but back down to earth and just make sure we get the win against Rangers. But, no, look, you can say all the cliches, all the form goes out the window in a derby, and it's not. To me, that's not entirely true. We've had 3 games apiece in the league and an opportunity to show who we are. We've looked very comfortable. In 2 of their 3 games, they've looked pretty average, particularly against Hearts. I thought they were very uninspiring. They're talking more about getting people out than in. Clearly, the finances there are a concern. The stadium's an asbestos-ridden hellhole. You just got to say it, just a reminder. No, look, form says we should win it. Heart says we should win it. The concern is always there around the man in the middle with the whistle and his particular support for one of the 2 sides that's not us. But overall, I'm as comfortable as I have been going into a derby in a little while. I just the last couple of Sunday nights, it's been sit down, turn the telly on, sit back, and we've got a goal before my coffee's sort of cooled down, which is just made things very comfortable and very nice. And I think it could quite easily be a 2-0, 3-0, and a fairly comfortable stroll. They'll put in some flying challenges, and there'll be some attempts to unsettle us and to get us out of our rhythm early. But I think we ride that out. If we get an early goal again, then I think it could be quite a comfortable afternoon.
Yeah, I don't really envisage anything other than a comfortable afternoon. I think their form's honking. They played Ross County. Ross County just came off the back of defeat the Spartans, so they're really ropey form. And if they think that 6-0 is the corner they've turned, then I think they're just about to turn another corner and right back to square one.
Pumping Ross County did turn Cyril Dessers into peak Lionel Messi, so
it has actually, yeah. I think we'll go out for the Jaguars straight away, and I think we'll probably try and get that early goal. And if we get that early goal, I'm saying once, I'm kind of fully hoping we will. But if we get that early goal, they're going to quickly, as you say, revert to the thuggish tactics, and it's going to revert as it has in all other Glasgow derbies we've played them under Clement. They're just going to revert to long ball football. They're just going to start shelling balls over the top, and Liam Scales and Greg Taylor are going to be recipients of that. But they haven't got the pace and power of Sima on their right this time to try and sort of put pressure on Taylor. So I don't know. I just don't see where they've made any improvements from last year, and I just kind of like. I'm like every other Celtic fan who's in their 40s now. You've got that 90s PTSD from when the old firm games used to roll around. You used to go, oh no, here we go again. And they had the all singing, all dancing, all-star teams. And we were really bad. And you caught some hidings, like you just got the odd win here and there. And draws were a good result on that. And now I still look to think that we're going to play Rangers. It's going to be a tough game, but this last 3 or 4 fixtures we've played them, I've just been coming even more increased confidence as it gets closer to the game. I mean, usually it's the opposite. Usually as the closer the game gets, the more my nerves set up. And right now I am so relaxed about this fixture. It's just, I don't know. It's just, like I say, they haven't improved at all. they seem to have gone backwards. And as you pointed out, like they need to sell players. Like everyone's for sale, even the unsellable Butland. He's for sale too, by the look of it. So I can't see anything other than one.
If anyone wants a player, £500,000 will get you just about anyone in the Rangers side at the moment, I think. Which, I did see someone in the comments say, can we take a moment just to laugh at Wonder Kid Cantwell? And I think it was best summed up in a tweet that I retweeted today, which was, in this current climate, a Todd Cantwell would get you 6 Bosun Lawwells. So, 6 Todd Cantwells would get you a Bosun Law. So, I don't know.
I mean, Todd Cantwell. TikTok Todd, this fixture last season, he turned up with 56 in the shorts. And it's all just unraveled from him. Even Rangers fans are now just shaking their head and going, you know what? Just go. Now we've had enough. You have Blackburn Rovers too, you know what I mean? They're hardly world beaters, are they? Like, you know what I mean?
It's the best thing I've seen is when you've seen, and there's been about 1,000 of them on Twitter, where someone's had the tweet of the Rangers fan saying he's a 50 million player, he's going to go to Madrid, alongside their current comments, get to fuck, can't wait for you to get out of the club. It's the saying is there's always a tweet, and there is always a tweet, and they just keep giving them to you. Overall, look, I think football-wise, they really miss what they got out of Abdallah Sima last year. I thought he was the only player that really looked a good threat, particularly in the derby games against us. I know old mate on Super Scoreboard today reckons Connor Barron's gonna take Callum McGregor out of the game, and he's the man to do that, and all that. Good luck with that. There's a reason Callum McGregor's seen off every challenge and everyone that's been that guy in the past. No, I'm supremely confident. You said it. The only thing that the nerves are entirely gone, and I'm not quite 40, but 35. I had that upbringing as well, where it was pretty fucking grim. And to me, the Sundays now, because being in Australia, we've got it's a 9:30 kickoff. You've just got a whole day to enjoy, and then I just find that my Spotify has more of the Rebels on. There's just a few more tunes. There's the occasional fist pumps or anything as I walk around the corner. I'm just looking forward to it, and I have a feeling the Wolf Tones and a few others will be on pretty early and pretty loud for a Sunday. And my 2-year-old loves singing along with it, so I can't wait. It's going to be another good day.
My daughter, who interrupted the podcast earlier in the night, I'm often worried they'll ask me, Dad, can we borrow your phone and put Spotify on? I'm like, oh, no, you can't be listening to that kind of music. I'm very sorry, you're not old enough to listen to the Rebs that I listen to. Sorry. I've got a question quickly here for you before we go into our squads and score predictions. So, over the past 2 seasons, in the opening Glasgow derby, or the corresponding fixture, whether it was at Ibrox or at Celtic Park, Rangers have lost, and the Mordor hordes have hounded the manager out after these results. Giovanni Van Bronckhorst lost 4-0 at Parkhead. I think Michael Beale was at 3-0 at Ibrox last year. No, it was 1-0. It was a Kyogo game, wasn't it? And then we had our defence was absolutely honking. We had Lagerbielke and Scales playing in defence that day.
Yeah, that we were one injury away from grabbing someone out of the crowd.
Yeah, we pretty much were. And we were like, oh, Jesus, this isn't going to go well. I mean, if we get a draw out of this, we'll be doing well. And up pops Kyogo with a wonder goal, and we end up coming out there a 1-0 win, which was the end for Mikey Beale. How much pressure do you think Philip Clement will come under if he takes a beating here on Sunday?
It's interesting because obviously I think there is the pressure there, and he's, not had anything when it's come to playing us at all, really. As you said, it's been a reversion to long ball, hoof ball very quickly. But he's just got the contract extension to ward off all the suitors, I imagine. So I feel like they probably can't afford to sack him. So the pressure will probably ramp up. And look, if we do them, the usual Monday morning rounds of all the Hun podcasts and Clyde Super Scoreboard is going to be delightful. Let's not forget that, how fun it'll be. But I don't think there's much they can do about it, because I don't think they can afford to sack the manager at this point. There's too much invested in him, and who's going to come in? He's halfway through his efforts to tear down and rebuild the squad. Who's going to want to come in and tear down and rebuild from there?
Yeah, it's a difficult one, but if rumours are true, they're still paying off Giovanni Van Bronckhorst, Michael Beale, all the way back to Warburton. Pedro Caixinha's still on gardening leave money. Oh. So to add another one in there, they might get a five-a-side team out of it.
I was going to say they could have a little gardening leave club. All the boys. I don't know. Are they still paying Ali McCoist? I don't know, but
it's quite possible. He was on astronomical money when he was managing the third division.
He took everything he could get out of him, didn't he? And acts like he bleeds blue. It is. I was just going to say it. And then the comment came up.
And the poor little face painter still hasn't seen a penny.
I love it. The poor guy. I watched that Kevin Bridges bit about that with the face painter.
Yeah.
I reckon once every couple of weeks I see it on TikTok, and I have to watch it every time because it's just so good jumping about like a tiger. No, I think, we have a good opportunity to really damage them, but I don't think there's going to be sack the manager talk, because I'm not sure, as I said, they can afford it, or, I don't think they're ready to admit, that Big Phil might not be up to it.
Yeah. I don't know. It'll be interesting to see, because if they lose 2-0, say, that they can walk away and say, right, let's go and try and rebuild and keep the points going until we get them back at Ibrox in the new year, Glasgow derby, and see if we can get a result then and try and build confidence in themselves. But if they take a hiding off us, then I think the pressure will ramp up on them something front. And the other thing is, if they take a hiding off us, if they get beat off us in any way, and Aberdeen win at the weekend, Aberdeen are 5 points clear of them, still to play them too. It's very interesting times. Like, that second spot might not be as assured as they think it is, like the way Aberdeen are going.
I'm not going to lie, I tipped them in our fearless predictions to come third, but I thought it would be Hearts in second, to be honest. So Jimmy Thielen looks the manager. There's some interesting things happening up at Aberdeen, but no, I don't think second is nailed on for him. I don't think it at all. No. So
okay then. So what's your score prediction then?
Let's go 3-0. Yeah. Let's go, and I think it's going to be another early goal. So look, I usually just say who will score a goal, but I'll pick my goal scorers. I'm gonna go an early goal to Dyson Maeda, a goal to Adam Eder, and then third goal, finish it off nicely, Callum McGregor slots one home and just has a little bit of a party to finish it out.
Yeah, I've got 3-0 as well, and I've got Kyogo to score in the first half, Ida in the second, and Hattati somewhere along the line. Penalty, Rangers, they'll miss the penalty because Schmeichel's just unstoppable. As RL77 saying there, penalty to Rangers. Yeah, not worried about that anymore, because Joe Hart wasn't the best when it came to penalties, whereas Kasper Schmeichel seems to be a bit good. Who starts up front, Ida or Kyogo? For me, it's going to be Kyogo, with Ida coming off the bench later on. So my prediction for the squad, I'll go with Schmeichel in goals, Johnson, CCV, Scales, Taylor, Carl Macken the anchor, Bernardo and Hattati, Kuhn on one side, Maeda on the other, and Kyogo up front. What about you, Dan? Anything different you would do?
No, exactly the same. That would be my starting 11. Ida comes on in the sort of the last half an hour to enjoy a tired defence, and we could probably throw Jimmy Forrest on, depending on who's looking tired at the back end there.
Yeah, definitely.
Maybe you don't start the Barcelona boy?
Nah, I might bring him on after the third. Like, you know what I mean? Just give him a taste of the derby. Like, you know what I mean? This is what a real atmosphere is like, mate.
Yeah, I like
so
it.
Then, yep. Well, that's been an interesting hour. This has been my first attempt at hosting a podcast. Probably my last. I can picture Jared sitting over there watching YouTube, pulling his head out in the Fijian hotel somewhere. So I'll pass over to you, Dan, for your final thoughts.
Yeah, I will say I thought you've done a great job tonight, mate. You directed the conversation and the flow perfectly. We had a shaky.
Well, we had a shaky start, as he's trying to say. I think his internet's cutting out there. Yeah, so I'll give you my final thought. My final thought is it's hand-scalping weekend, and we are going to absolutely bar them. That's my final thought. Nothing there from a man Dan. So anyway, guys, thank you very much for watching. It's been an honour and a privilege hosting this for the first and only time. Cheers again. Hail, hail.